So this is the video review for the Revoltech Yamaguchi number 105 Getter-1 Renewal version. This is coming at you from our friends at angles.com, and I'll probably stick a link maybe in the show notes or maybe in the video itself, who knows. Okay, so this is supposed to be our friendly tubby little buddy Getter-1, supposedly from the OVA change Shin Getter-Robo, The Last Days of Earth. Although by looking at the box, I'm pretty sure that's a screenshot from New Getter-Robo. I'm not sure what's worse, the fact that they made the mistake or the fact that I can tell that they made a mistake. And so, this being a Revoltech, it's all about the posability. So let's go over some of his joints. So starting off with the head, he's actually just got a regular ball joint and a kind of small, sort of non-ratcheted Revoltech joint, more basically like a Figma joint there at the base of the neck, which allows him to kind of get his head, going around and getting funky here, like or something like that. And also, oddly enough, his knees are done in a more regular hinge with a cut right there, so that when you bend it, you get this little tech detail, or basically like a little knee detail there. So that's kind of weird between the the neck joint and the knee joint. It's like, what's going on, Kyoto? You have no faith in the product itself, but the rest of them is all Revoltech joints. He's got some basic little Revoltech joints in his elbows there. It's got the little cover so that you have the hidden joint there. He's got Revoltech joints in his hips, very nice big clicky Revoltech joints in the ankles, although just because of the shape of the foot, it doesn't quite go forward far enough, so he kind of has to lean forward a bit in order to just stand normally, and his small feet aren't really helping the whole standing up part. I mean, of course, if you want, you can always just grab the ever-included V-shaped Revoltech stand and then just kind of wedge it into his foot there, and there you go. Now he can stand without having to actually stand. Also, I like how they started doing these in clear plastic, because I guess black doesn't Photoshop away quite so nicely. And of course, like every Revoltech, he does come with the little reminder that you are a dirty gaijin buying a Japanese toy, because this Revoltech coin can only be redeemed in Japan. And of course, he also comes with the little Revoltech storage box. Now here's what I do when I get the box. I just take the box, open it up, put the coin inside, and then I just forget about the box. I don't use it for anything. So anyway, back to the figure. He does have, he has got a Revoltech joint in his waist and in his upper body, and basically you can click it up, and now there's kind of a nasty gap there. So if you do this, you want to view him from the back, but of course if you flick it like this, now you can see right up into his back, and that's a little nasty too. Now this joint in his waist is it doesn't seem to be useful for anything. I mean, you can kind of bend him a little bit to the left or right, but just let me show you how this is all put together here. Let me just pop his upper body off and then pop his waist off, and maybe this is an open get, but so he's got this little belt piece, and there's actually this little ball joint. It looks like a ball joint, but it goes in this little groove inside the lower body so that it won't move. And because the thing won't really move, it's just kind of rubbing against the actual body part itself and not letting it move around. Also, looking at this body part, it's actually asymmetrical, which I think is kind of weird. It's like, what's going on, Yamaguchi? Are you starting to fall back on some bad habits? But it's like that doesn't really help the figure pose that well. But anyway, just weird things. Also, you might notice that he's got the little tomahawk holders on his shoulders, as most Getter-1s are wont to do. Except these little, I guess, gold or caramel colored things are actually Revoltech joints. This is where his shoulder is jointed. It's not jointed like right here where you think it would be. It's actually right up there. So I mean, that's it looks a little unnatural. It kind of hides pretty well from most angles. You know, you can get his arms kind of all the way forward and kind of all the way back. I think the only problem occurs when you kind of raise them up. And I know you Toho fans out there are thinking, it's like, you know what, I really like armpits, but for me this isn't quite working. It looks very strange just to have this whole little cone-shaped area in here. It just doesn't look too good. I mean, again, from certain angles it hides pretty well, so it's not a huge deal, but again, kind of weird. Okay, so I mean, he is a Revoltech, so you can get him into the standard crazy dynamic Revoltech poses. Of course, if you can't stand him up with on his own, then you just gotta pop him on the stand. And also it does come with this thing, which when I reviewed Evangelion 02 The Beast, I didn't really like this thing, and I still don't like these things because they feel very cheap. That's just the thing about the plastic they use, but you know, it's kind of an action stomp, I guess is what it is. Or I guess if it's like he's kind of like pushing his foot out and kicking up dust, and you know, it looks all right, but don't really like that part myself. And of course, you're probably wondering, well, where's his cape? Where's his Getter wing? And you know, I love the fact that he calls his cape Getter wing because it's like a little kid with Superman. As long as I have a cape, I can fly. So he's got these 4 little holes in his back, and what you do is you just grab these. Basically, there's 4 pieces of cape or Getter wing, and they all have a single Revoltech joint at the end, and you just plug them in. So get them and rotate them to the right position. Yeah, this can be a little annoying because the joint won't rotate where you want it, and you gotta really plug these little things in. And here you go. You got yourself the Getter wing. A nice tattered cape. These 4 pieces are actually unique. They are not the same piece repeated 4 times. They have slight differences in just how the little tattered ends look, and there's also some small holes, but we'll get to that later. And if there is one problem with this, and if he couldn't stand that well before, he's not going to stand very well with some huge pieces of PVC on his back. But still, it does look nice, but really only from certain angles can you kind of convince yourself that these is actually, you know, one solid cape. Because sometimes you can just kind of like see through it, and it's like, oh, it looks like it's little tattered remains. One of the cool things that they show you can do with this on the box is that, as you can see here, there's actually a hole in the cape, and it's basically right in the fold here, kind of the kind of little elbow of the cape, and you can just sort of start taking these and putting them together. You can kind of replicate scenes in Shin Getter-Robo where the cape was kind of flowing around Getter-1. You can actually put these in here too, but it doesn't quite work so well because you're going to have the end of the joint sticking out like that, and you know, it's kind of thin right there, so you definitely want to stick them like right in here, just in the meat of the cape. And this looks a lot better on the box. I'm not really creative, so when you give me a toy that forces me to be creative, I can't really do it. But yeah, so it's kind of the effect you can get, and I guess you can also just kind of have like this very long scarf just kind of blowing in the breeze or whatever. It's kind of, this is really up to the user to use it to its full effect. But yeah, it works all right. I suppose it's a little bit better than just the static cape that came with the first Revoltech Getter-Robo. And of course, like every single Revoltech, it does have optional hands, and these actually do plug in and out very easily. They actually do have a small little joint at the wrist. You know, it comes with some splayed hands. It's very nice. And the holding thing's hands, and for holding what? Well, obviously a Getter tomahawk. And these do go in okay. I mean, they're a little tight at the end, but once you get them in, they will go in pretty easily. It's not quite like on my Revoltech Black Getter, where I tried to stick one of the tomahawks in, and then when I pulled it out, the head of the tomahawk broke off from the handle. It's like, ooh, Kyoto, you're awful quality. No, this guy definitely feels pretty good. It's got a nice Getter tomahawk there. Although he doesn't come with the Getter machine guns like in Shin Getter Robo, so I'm kind of wondering between that fact and the fact that they use a different screen cap on the box. Maybe this was supposed to be from new Getter Robo, and they just kind of at the last minute changed the license or something. But yeah, it's kind of weird. And of course, like most of the modern Revoltechs, you do have the full stand thing if you want, so you can kind of get him up in the air with his Getter tomahawk. See, he's jumping in the air, going to do something cool. And of course, like most Revoltechs, to get him on the stand, you just take this end and stick it right up his butt. And it's kind of an angle to it, so yeah, there you go. So there you go. You got Getter-1, he's jumping around, flying around, doing something. Looking pretty cool and dynamic. And also, like, Eva 02, this is a beast. He does come with the extension part. So if you want, you can get your Getter-1 way, way up in the air. Yeah, this is weird. Yeah, see, it goes in like an angle. So, and yeah, this will probably fall over because old Getter-1's kind of a chunky guy, and it's a bit much for the little plastic stand. But this does have another use, and this is something that I thought was kind of weird. So let me just give him back his appropriate fists for this particular action feature. Yeah, his head's just flailing around everywhere. Okay, so like every good Getter Robo, he does have the Getter beam, and you kind of have to get him into this position, and he will not stand up like this. So let's just take the action stamp and stick it on there so that he will in fact stand up. Okay, now this kind of confused me out of the box, because it's like, this is the little Getter beam effect, and I'm looking at it, it's like, well, how does this actually attach to his stomach here so that he has the Getter beam effect? There's no holes in him at all, there's no hole or peg in the back, but there's this little port right here. And so looking around the box, like there it is on the box. Now it's like, it's just kind of shown floating in the middle right there. But if you open this up and you look at the flap, they show you, oh, you're supposed to use the stand to hold it up. It's like, we can include a little catalog, but we can't include a instruction book, but whatever. So yeah, you're supposed to take this and stick it on here, and then just kind of position it the right way, and just kind of put Getter-1 behind it, and it doesn't actually attach or anything. It's actually, you can't even really get it flush against his body. So and then later on you can Photoshop this whole thing out of the picture so that it looks right. So yeah, this is kind of lame. I'm gotta say, not really impressed with this here. Probably would have preferred just like a little thing that pegs into his stomach. That would have made more sense to me. This doesn't really work. I mean, I think that's kind of part of their new philosophy is, you gotta have effect parts just, so they can photograph nicely without, having the play value. Just a couple of last things. It does have a little double Revoltech joint in case you want to give a little more posability to the cape pieces. And a rather dangerously cheesy explosion effect with a Revoltech joint on it. So basically, if you wanted to, you could... On the box, they show this attaching to the cape, but you could also put it on his back and say he's getting shot in the back and there's an explosion. So that's kind of cool. It's a very big, very poofy explosion. But yeah. Yeah, overall, Getter-1, he's got his quirks, but he is a pretty nice little Revoltech figure, all things considering. Definitely fixes some of the problems on the first Revoltech Getter-1. Obviously, one of the problems was you couldn't get those darn hands in and out without breaking the figure. You couldn't get the tomahawks in and out without breaking the tomahawks. I do wish he did come with the machine guns. That would really kind of fill out the accessory count, and maybe they could have done this shoulder thing differently. That's just a little minor complaint, but overall, pretty good. I mean, fourth time's the charm, because this is probably the fourth Kyoto Getter-1, because I have the original it was Robot Museum Getter-1, and that guy broke at the chest joint, right in half. And there was the K&M trading figures, which had a Getter-1 that was posable, and then there was the first Revoltech Getter-1, and now the Renewal version. So yeah, fourth time is the charm. So this has been another professional review by Professional Beef.